He looks on hidden aspects and screened powers. He knows the law and natural line of things, undriven by a brief life's will to act, unharassed by the spur of pity and fear. He makes no haste to untie the cosmic knot or the world's torn, jarring heart to reconcile. So we have seen in previous passages that this omniscient, this omnipotent, the eternal, as Sri Aurobindo calls him, acquiesces in the wisdom even that made hell, because he's the eternal and he has to experience everything for himself. The harsh utility of death and tears. He even has to acquiesce in the gradual steps of time. Mother speaks of this to us and she says, if you once would look at me as I am, you would break into pieces. She was so clear on that. You would break into pieces. Because how many of us can actually see the divine? The divine sees us, as it is often said. So, have we done time with our group? I believe so, no, Vladimir?
Yes.
We've done time, yes. So, we have to go through these different portions. And these gods, divine beings, we know that they don't share in our good or in our evil, because if they did, their strength could be damaged and would not be able to save. So, alive to the truth that dwells in God's extremes, awake to the motion of all-seeing force, the slow outcome of the long, ambiguous years, and the unexpected good from woeful deeds, the immortal sees not as we vainly see. This is such an important passage because how does good come from woeful deeds? Woeful means causing sorrow or misery, characterized by that. Now, the immortal sees good from everything. As Sri Aurobindo tells us very, very clearly, there is no sin. There is no evil. And we can only begin to understand that when we rise above the thinking mind and even the higher mind and even the illumined mind. It is only with the intuitive mind that we begin to see clearly. And until that time, all of this is somewhat meaningless to the world. How can you get unexpected good from woeful deeds? But the immortal doesn't see as we see. He looks on these hidden aspects and these screened powers. He knows the law and natural line of things. He knows this evolutionary movement of things, this natural line. He is not undriven by a brief life's will to act, even to act. I believe the British pronunciation is unharassed, not unharassed, but unharassed by the spur of pity and fear. To be harassed is to be subject to some intimidation or aggressive pressure. He doesn't make any haste to untie this cosmic knot that we're all in, or even to reconcile this world's torn, jarring heart. To reconcile means to bring into harmony, to bring into agreement. And Sri Aurobindo has something to tell us. In the Life Divine, he says, true reconciliation proceeds always by a mutual comprehension, leading to some sort of intimate oneness. And now, Mother speaks to us when she wrote to Louis Allen of the Lake Estate. She spoke about, it's a kind of mediation, if you will. Each side of an argument has to give up one aspect of its argument. So let's say we have A and B, two opponents. Well, we have somehow to get to C, which is again a harmony. So A must give up one aspect of his formidable argument, and B has to give another aspect up so they can get to C. And then from C, we begin again with breaking into A and B to get to a higher point. It's very, very interesting what Mother has said, because she said that only in harmony can true progress be made. So, any questions so far? So, in time, he waits for the eternal's hour. The eternal is the divine, of course. And Sri Aurobindo says all is eternal in the eternal spirit. That's in his essays in philosophy and yoga. If in the Life Divine, very succinctly, he says each is the whole eternal concealed. And now we come to this line, yet a spiritual secret aid is there. While a tardy evolution's coils wind on, and nature hews her way through adamant, a divine intervention thrones above. We have a lot of words here. And have we done evolution, Vladimir? I'm not so sure.
No, I don't think so.
No. Could someone do all of evolution for us? It's a long one, but it's extremely important.
May I read?
Yes, certainly.
Okay. Evolution, Sri Aurobindo. Evolution is nothing but the progressive unfolding of spirit out of the density of material consciousness and the gradual self-revelation of God out of this apparent animal being. From the hour of God.
Well, he tells us very clearly that we are still in the animal nature, all of us, this animal being. And of course, we know that also in ourselves, that there are still animalistic tendencies in us. And there has to be a gradual self-revelation of God out of all of this. And that is evolution. It's the unfolding of the spirit out of the density of the material consciousness. Such a powerful statement. And you know, the hour of God is An extraordinary work. We should all read that. Please continue, Sanjana.
Yes. All evolution is in essence a heightening of the force of consciousness in the manifest being, so that it may be raised into the greater intensity of what is still unmanifest, from matter into life, from life into mind, from the mind into the spirit, the life divine. One being and consciousness is involved here in matter. Evolution is the method by which it liberates itself. Consciousness appears in what seems to be inconscient, and once having appeared, is self impelled to grow higher and higher, at the same time to enlarge and develop towards a greater and greater perfection. Life is the first step of this release of consciousness. Mind is the second. But the evolution does not finish with mind. It awaits a release into something greater, a consciousness which is spiritual and supramental. The next step of the evolution must be towards the development of supermind and spirit as the dominant power in the conscious being. For only then will the involved divinity in things release itself entirely, and it become possible for life to manifest perfection on himself.
So beautiful and so powerful that there is only one being and consciousness involved here in matter, the divine. And only through evolution can it liberate itself. So consciousness first appears in what seems to be the inconscient. Now, when it appears, it is impelled to grow higher and higher. Mother says that this consciousness is in the animals, it's in the plants. She even says that some of the animals have the beginning of a psychic being in them. She tells us, and we have a lot of evidence now, that plants can feel pain. They can react to the pain in other plants. And you should all read The Secret Life of Plants. It's a great book. It's a wonderful book. And it's an opening into the understanding in a deeper way of plants and animals, much as the American Indians understood the life of plants and birds and animals. So, carry on, please.
Evolution is the one eternal dynamic law and hidden process of the earth nature, essays divine and human.
It's the only one. It is the only one. And that's why Mother says that the gods often resist becoming human. If they want this marvelous experience of human birth, they have to take birth in a body. And that's something that most of them refuse, because they are very happy with their own world of power. Each one has a different type of power and uses it in his own way. We can contact them, and these are not rakshasas or asuras or pisachas. These are gods, and they do have powers, and they do help us on earth by their calm indifference. Please continue.
Wouldn't they get special help if they chose to come down? Or have they evolved to that stage, or is that just how they were?
They quite possibly can choose a body, being, but they have to go through all the evolutionary stage, and they're going to have to be, when they're born, they don't have that mental capacity. It has to develop. Just like us, we have to grow and learn. Vladimir, anything to say on that?
Yeah, I can add here from the Vedic perspective, and
wonderful. Yes,
the gods are the universal powers of consciousness, which are, according to the mother's vision, there were two stages of creation, as you remember. First,
yes.
The first stage, there were four emanations which turned into their opposites. Yes, consciousness in light into the darkness, bliss into suffering, truth into falsehood, and finally life, the eternal life, into death. Yes. And then there was first emanations were found by the Supreme Shakti. These were the gods. And when the gods were offered to plunge into the darkness, they refused. They were scared because they saw that infinite darkness and suffering and falsehood and death. And they, who are emanations of the Supreme, why should they go there? So they refused the mission. And then Mother says she looked deeper into the Supreme and found greater emanations, greater in power, in consciousness, in bliss, in truth, greater in all those aspects, which agreed to plunge into the darkness. And that is what our psychic beings are here representing, actually, these evolving souls, because together with the psychic, these fallen emanations also evolve together. We are enlightening them. We bring the light of the Supreme to them, that they can choose to return to their self, awareness of the Supreme, because they lost it. So what the gods are doing here in this case, they are kind of hanging in that typal beings, hanging in that supreme stage of their own uninvolvement, as it were. So according to the Veda, they are getting involved through the sacrifice. And this is how it is done. The fire, this fire which was the first avatar, that who plunged, of whom we are the sparks. He is our father, as it were. That fire, the divine will in nature and in the heart of every man and every creature, calls to them, he invokes them, these powers, and brings them down. It's by his command that they come down and they help us to evolve, because they are somewhere above, and with their support we can grow. So they come and bring this higher, divine, untouched, uninvolved light, yes, which is helping us to widen and change and transform our being. This is how evolution is taking place, with their help. And it is said in the Veda, one second, Margaret, and then you, please. And then it is said that if these gods want to reach to the level of the Supreme, that means from which the Aditi and Deity realms are seen, that means the transcendental realms and these realms, they have to plunge, they have to take their birth. Even the greatest gods, they have to become evolutionary, because only then, in that moment, they can reach the supreme vision.
Yes.
This is something amazing.
Can
I ask you, what is an Agni? There is Agni is a name, as you mentioned it a little bit, the fire, but the mother also said, when you like to have to progress, that is Agni inside, and I'm that, and then I'm there. So can you look at this? Because
Absolutely. It is that fire. It is that very, he is considered to be the child of Rudra or Shiva. Shiva is the one who holds on his shoulders the whole nature. And that action of Shiva, let us say, is Agni, yes? Which is pushing the whole evolution forward, upward, always upward. Always everything is in a movement of energy. Everything is changing its shape constantly. That's what fire does. Yeah? And until that shape is really suitable, what is that shape? Those fallen emanations are our shape, which are constantly changing and transforming with this push, yeah? And with the help from above, both, yes. And that is aspiration in the heart. In the Rig Veda, a fire is Agni is the one who has two major roles. One is that the Agni in nature, it's everywhere, yes, that heat in nature, which is pushing all nature forward to live, life force. And the other is in the heart. In the heart of man is also the fire, the flame, the aspiration. And it is recognized in the Rig Veda that he can be approached as beloved, that beloved love in the heart, yeah, that aspiration, or as the energy which is pushing the whole evolution forward, energy of nature also, both. And this is something interesting also.
Vladimir, I had a question. So aren't the gods at the overmental plane, they are like static, their role is only at the overmental plane. So this idea of like, if the gods want to progress, they have to come down to earth to progress. But I don't think that will happen because they are static, right? On that plane of consciousness.
They are not static because the overmind is not static. They are typal beings, yes, but they are very dynamic.
Yes.
It's a bit different than static. Typal means they are not changing unless they are participating in the sacrifice, in the transformation of nature. And that's what fire does. He brings them in. Yeah? He calls upon them, as it is said that he sacrifices here the gods. He, Agni, the divine will, sacrifices the gods here. He brings them down and makes them work. They don't want to come down because it's very narrow, darkened atmosphere where they don't feel comfortable. But he makes them come, and then they widen the scope. They transform this narrow space in which we live by their presence.
So when the mother asked Lord Shiva, and he said, "No, mother, I won't come down now." He said he would come down later. So did he mean when we're not in such an abysmal state and when we evolve as a humanity and it'll be a better world? Is that what he meant?
No, he couldn't come down, as it were, because he is really within. He couldn't come to this, as I understand this passage, really. There are many interpretations, but if he would come down, everything would change, yes? The whole, everything, we would... Because Shiva, why Shiva is Ashutosha called, he is very easily, satisfied with any tapasya, because he gives very easily boons to everyone. His boons are infinite, and when he gives these boons to Ravana, to whoever, then they start using them. Then they go to Vishnu and ask him to, please let us reconcile, amend this boon, do something with this. Because his boons are absolute, he brings absolute supramental change. So, and it is too early. The evolution is not yet reached that peak, didn't come yet to that stage. That's why he said mother says he will come, but when his time is right. It's not his time to come.
I think that also with your brilliant explanation, we all have to remember that we have the mother.
Right.
And we can go to the mother and invoke her before even the gods.
Yes.
Okay. You could finish up,
Yes.
Sanjana.
We speak of the evolution of life and matter, the evolution of mind and matter, but evolution is a word which merely states the phenomenon without explaining it. For there seems to be no reason why life should evolve out of material elements or mind out of living form, unless we accept the Vedantic solution that life is already involved in matter and mind in life, because in essence matter is a form of veiled life a form of veiled consciousness, the life divine. For if evolution is the progressive manifestation by nature of that which slept or worked in her, involved, it is also the overt realization of that which she secretly is. We cannot then bid her the right to condemn with the religionist as perverse and presumptuous, or with the rationalist as a disease or hallucination, any intention she might evince or effort she may make to go beyond. If it be true that spirit is involved in matter and apparent nature is secret God, then the manifestation of the divine in himself and the realization of God within and without are the highest and most legitimate aim possible to man upon earth, the life divine. Could you explain this, please?
Well, we are speaking here of the different aspects of mental beings. The religionist condemns things as perverse and presumptuous, the rational as things that are diseased or a hallucination. And so if it's true that the spirit is involved in matter and apparent nature is secret God, then the manifestation of the divine in himself and the realization of God within us and without are the highest aim possible to man on earth. This is again where Mother speaks of the divine, Sri Aurobindo also, as casting himself out to have other experiences of himself. This is difficult to understand on a mental level. How can he condone perversity, evil to our eyes, but there is no evil to his eyes. Everything is evolutionary. It's the progressive manifestation by nature of everything that is asleep in her, waking up and beginning to work in her. And what she really is. She is the divine as a work in progress, as all of us are as well. Want to add to that, Vladimir?
Well, there is something interesting comes to my mind that this is, if from the eyes of the Supreme everything is what it is, but why it is causing so much discomfort and pain and this and that I think that is because of misplacement, or not everything which is in the world has its role, as it were. But when it is placed into different context, into the wrong context, that's called adharma. Dharma is everything is placed in accordance with its proper role. But once it is placed into the wrong context, the right thing, but put into the wrong time and space, then it plays differently. It causes pain, discomfort, disharmony, fight, struggle, darkness, all these perversions, all the desires are made like this. It's a misplacement of the right thing or putting it into the wrong context. Notice all the fancying what people have as desires is coming from the misplacement. One thing put into the wrong context where it should not be, and then it creates some kind of, energy field which we experience as the desire. That's a once it is all placed, it can't be placed immediately from the darkness when it is rising for the first time. It doesn't know its place in time yet, yeah? So it causes a lot of trouble, a lot of pain, discomfort, and so on and so forth. But still it is looking for its right place among other things, among other contexts, which also are still in search of their right place and do not know the place. So all this is bumping into each other and looking for its right attitude towards what is going on, really. That's
but
how
I think we also have to take cognizance of the dark forces that are playing with us, the evil forces, the asuras. They have their role, no doubt, and that is as a spur to our evolutionary thrust. But the pain that they cause for us is something at times indescribable. And we have to free ourselves from their influence. Yeah, there are smaller ones. There are Rakshasas and Pisachas, and they play their little games with the human being. But it's the Asuras that create the greatest problems in this evolution.
Yeah, if you look at these Asuras and Rakshasas and Paishachas, there are many names, by the way. There are Shushnas, Piprus, all kinds of names in the Veda. They have different functions, and Dasyus and Vrikas. And so all of them have they are those bouncing energies of the divine, those beings which are looking for their proper place, for their proper form. They don't have even form. And in a way, by that, they are asserting themselves. They are given the right to assert themselves because they are what they are. Yes, I am what I am from the highest vision of the Supreme. So everything which came once into being has a right of its own self, sustainability, assertion, development. And since energy is flowing and changing shape into shape, you can be either the one shape changer or you can be food for the other to change the shape. So you choose what you want. And in that struggle, in that kind of ignorance, where there is no light, where you have to be what you are. So these forms take, and there are forces like Asuras and more hostile forces who are given extra competence, or how to say, extra role to play, that they can exaggerate a bit of it, and support that resistance towards change and harmony. And they play that role.
And Mother says, but they too are my children.
Yes.
So, thank you all. Namaste.
Thank you.
Namaste.
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 Namaste.